morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's service of Multifaith Readings and Reflection. My name is Bavli, and I'm one of the spiritual care practitioners here at Mackenzie Health. This service of Multifaith Readings and Reflection, you will see throughout prayers and scriptures which represent some of our multi-faith community. We encourage everyone to participate in all aspects of the service and to enjoy and celebrate those aspects that you have found most helpful and supportive to you. We hope that everyone will learn something new today, and in that spirit, keep an open mind throughout. Today's theme is on suffering and hope. So we have an opening reflection. This is a prayer by St. Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where is despair, hope. And where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born again to eternal life. Our next reading comes to us from the Hindu tradition, and this comes from the Rig Veda reading. The human body is the temple of God. One who kindles the light of awareness within gets true light. The sacred flame of your inner shrine is constantly bright. The experience of unity is the fulfillment of human endeavors, and the mysteries of life are revealed. The next reading comes to us from the Jewish tradition, and this comes from Psalm 139. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You understand my thought afar off. You comprehend my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. For there's not a word on my tongue, but behold, O Lord, you know it all together. You have hedged me behind and before, and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be the light about me. Indeed, the darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as the day, and the darkness and the light are both alike to you. Our next reading comes to us from the Muslim tradition, and this comes from Surah 27. Praise be to Allah, who has created the heavens and the earth, who sends you down rain from the sky, and who has made the earth firm to live in, made rivers in its midst, and who listens to the distressed when he calls on him, who relieves its suffering, and who guides you through the depth of darkness. Our next reading comes to us from the Christian tradition, and this comes from the book of Romans. For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with him, that we may also be glorified together. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. Our next reading comes to us from the Buddhist tradition, and this is a quote from the Dalai Lama. May I become at all times, both now and forever, a protector for those without protection, a guide for those who have lost their way, and a ship for those with oceans to cross, and a bridge for those with rivers to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, and a lamp for those without light, a place of refuge for those who lack shelter, and a servant to all in need. Good morning again, everyone. My name is Bavli, and thank you for joining us for today's service of Multifaith Readings and Reflections. I'm one of the spiritual care practitioners here at Mackenzie Health, and as I mentioned previously, our theme today is on suffering and hope. So I'd like to share a few words with you of reflection on this theme. So there I was, walking in the ICU, and I was looking some family member who's sitting in the waiting room. And I thought to myself, no way, it can't be him. I haven't seen him in at least 10, 12 years. What's the worst that's going to happen if I just approach him? It's going to be the wrong guy, and I'm just going to apologize and say, you look like someone I remember. I stuck out my hand to this person, and he came and hugged me. And he told me the story of his father, and all I heard in my mind was suffering and pain. This person who hugged me was my grade school teacher from grades 4 to 6. And there he was, sitting in a hospital waiting room as his father was being admitted into the ICU. Suffering is so much part of the human experience that we are somewhat inclined to take it for granted until we are actually suffering ourselves. Then we find ourselves asking all the big questions. Why is this happening? Why me or why them? What is this for and what is the purpose? Suffering really does not get under our skin in irritating ways. Suffering really does get under our skin in irritating ways, and that is what gives us trouble. There are varieties of suffering, and they do not always bring the same symptoms. Suffering can be physical, could be mental, could be spiritual. Sometimes one of these, sometimes all three at the same time. Mental or spiritual suffering can cause physical symptoms, which on the surface may appear to be real suffering. At other times, the effects of physical suffering can cause mental or spiritual anguish. It is an endless loop that wraps our minds and takes our time on a daily basis. Suffering can be the greatest pain. But the opposite is true. It can also be our greatest hope. It is in suffering that we see people come together. Sometimes suffering actually helps to build community, as happened in the aftermath of 9/11, or any tsunami or hurricane in recent years. If you turn on your television set, and you'll see how it brings people and communities together. People who were in the vicinity, they began to do what they could to help those who are affected. Even people who lived at great distances from these events were touched deeply by them and responded in a variety of ways to help alleviate the tragedy and the suffering it brought. I'm reminded of a quote by Viktor Frankl. He's a 20th century psychologist and the Holocaust survivor who said, "If there is meaning in life at all, then there must be meaning in suffering." It is that kind of response that Frankl spoke which begins to bring hope into the suffering, even if it is impossible to find a satisfying answer to the question that suffering raises for us. Hope is found in how we handle suffering. If we allow the suffering we are experiencing to defeat us, to batter us down into submission, we will not find hope. However, if we seek to overcome it, to grow through it, and to find peace in it, there is hope, potentially, in the midst of suffering. We may not escape the suffering, but we may begin to rise up in the hope that someday it will come to an end, and we will discover that we have endured to the end and come out the victor. It is only as we look back on the experience that we begin to see that the greater being is needed within us, which gives us hope in the midst of suffering. And this point is reflected in our readings today. The Hindu reading points to a sacred flame within us that shines brighter as we experience unity and fulfillment in our human endeavors. The Jewish reading speaks of the night as light and compare the two as being two sides of a coin. The Islamic reading asks us to pray to a higher being who can relieve us of our pain and who will guide us through the depths of darkness. The Christian reading points to a time when suffering and pain will be no more. And finally, the Buddhist reading speaks about how our human interaction is meant to bring light to those who have lost it and become a servant to all in their time of need. Viktor Frankl never lost hope while he was in the concentration camp. I would even go as far as to say that concentration camp for him was his hell. It was a modern day hell. He had his moments when he began to question, to lose faith. But the one thing that kept him together was the people who were around him and the hope of tomorrow. He found meaning in his greatest suffering and allowed it to become a hope for the rest of his group. There were days when he was full, so he would give his portion of the food to others. And there's other days where he was much weaker, and others would share their food with him. And that is the community that is created around the suffering that we experience. The suffering that he and his fellow mates experienced while they were in the concentration camp. So going back to my grade school teacher who I mentioned before, he kept talking to me about his father and the experience he had in the hospital. And I kept listening and listening, and the more I heard about his experience, the more that I saw hope within his story. He had a lot to take on, but by the end of it he said, "It's good to see you, and thank you for listening. I'm starting to feel a lot better now, and especially seeing you in school and seeing you in the role that you're in now, it's given me hope." That experience showed me that hope is being able to see that there is a light despite all the darkness that may surround us. Thank you. Now we'll have a concluding reflection. May all beings be happy and free. May you recognize the power and the beauty within you and within all. May you nurture the seeds of your becoming. May music be like a prayer and your feet a drum to the beat of your heart. May your ministry be rooted in the power of Mother Earth, and may your light sparkle. May your heart grow green and healthy and whole, and may generosity of spirit flow you like a river. May your dreams of freedom be fulfilled. Thank you again for joining us for our service today of multi-faith readings and reflection. Again, my name is Bavli, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you'd like to connect with spiritual care, you can contact your nurse on the floor, and they'll be able to reach out to us at any time. Also, if you go through the spiritual care icon on your iPad, our phone number is located there with our extension, as well as the information of the different services that we provide. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you next week, Tuesday at 11. Thank you, everyone.